The migrant crisis at the U.S. southern border sparked a dramatic diplomatic rebuke on Thursday as the U.S. special envoy to Haiti resigned in protest to what he called the inhumane treatment of thousands of Haitian refugees. In a blistering letter to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, diplomat Daniel Foote said, quote, "I will not be associated with the United States' inhumane, counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees and illegal immigrants." Haiti, the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, has gone through profound instability in recent weeks, including a presidential assassination, gang violence, and a major earthquake. Foote said the Caribbean nation's collapsed state was unable to support the infusion of returning migrants. Many Haitians at the border see refuge in the U.S. as a way to help those back home.
There is a crisis going on in our country. We shouldn't be deported because the people who are being deported are people who send food to their families, to their friends.
U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price called Foote's resignation unfortunate and said he has, quote, mischaracterized circumstances. Foote's departure follows growing pressure on the Biden administration from the United Nations and his fellow Democrats over the treatment of Haitians in a sprawling, impromptu migrant camp in Texas near the Mexican border. Democrats had hoped for an end to deterrent measures brought in by Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump. On the Mexican side of the river early on Thursday, close to 20 police patrol cars lined the bank overlooking the area where hundreds of Haitian migrants in recent days have crossed back and forth. Many said they were awoken at 6 a.m. by the cars driving through the camp and, fearful of being detained, chose to cross back to the U.S. side. As many as 14,000 people gathered in the camp in Del Rio, Texas last week. Less than half remain due to expulsions and detentions, while others have left for Mexico to avoid being sent home.
All I heard was the guy coming through the deli part, and we heard 3 gunshots. It sounded like they were balloons.
At least 12 people were injured and at least 1 killed when a lone shooter opened fire at a supermarket in suburban Memphis, Tennessee on Thursday. The police chief said the shooter was found dead from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Law enforcement officers swarmed the crime scene just after the shooting unfolded at a Kroger grocery store and began rendering aid to victims and others found hiding inside the supermarket, Chief Dale Lane told reporters.
Today at 1:30 hours or 1:30 p.m., our dispatch received a call of an active shooter occurring at the Kroger behind us. As bad as this scene is, and it's horrific, I've been involved in this for 34 years and I've never seen anything like it.
The shooter, who was believed to have acted alone, was found dead in a parking lot outside the store. Local media reported the suspect's body was discovered inside a vehicle. No immediate explanation for a possible motive was offered by authorities. Lane said some of the survivors were severely injured.
A CDC panel voted Thursday to recommend booster shots of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine to people ages 65 and older and those at risk for severe disease. The vote clears the way for a rollout to begin as early as this week. The booster shots were authorized by the FDA on Wednesday. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Advisory Panel declined to recommend boosters for adults ages 18 to 64 who live or work in institutions with high risk of contracting COVID-19, such as healthcare workers, teachers, and residents of homeless shelters and prisons. Some panel members cited the difficulty of implementing such a proposal. The CDC said that some 26 million people in the United States received the second Pfizer shot at least 6 months ago, including 13 million age 65 or older.
The world simply cannot delay climate ambition any further.
Faced with what they see as an existential threat, leaders from low-lying and island nations implored rich countries at the United Nations General Assembly this week to act more forcefully against a warming planet. Marshall Islands President David Kabua said his country was under threat from rising sea levels and that the 2015 Paris Agreement on climate change must be delivered in action, not empty words.
Climate change remains the greatest threat to the security and well-being of our region, especially to low-lying atoll nations like my own. we simply have no higher ground to seek.
On Thursday, Guyana's president criticized large polluters for not delivering on promises to curb emissions, accusing them of deception and failure.
We hold out similar hope that the world's worst emitters of greenhouse gases that are threatening the welfare of all mankind will also come to the realization that in the end it will profit them little to emerge king over a world of dust.
Speaking at the United Nations Security Council on Thursday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States under President Joe Biden has prioritized addressing climate change.
The climate crisis isn't coming. It's already here. And clear patterns are emerging in its impact. The consequences are falling disproportionately on vulnerable and low-income populations.
Blinken also said agreeing that climate change belongs within the purview of the Security Council would send a clear message to the international community about the seriousness of the issue. Russia's deputy UN ambassador disagreed.
We believe it is counterproductive to include the climate component in the mandates of peacekeeping and special political missions. Peacekeepers do not have the necessary expertise nor the necessary tools to propose viable solutions for climate change.
Biden said earlier this week that he would work with Congress to double funds by 2024 to help developing nations deal with climate change. And on Wednesday, Chinese President Xi Jinping pledged to stop building coal-fired power plants overseas. World leaders will convene again to discuss combating climate change at the COP26 International Climate Summit in Glasgow on November 1st.
All over the country. Today at 1:30 p.m., our dispatch received a call of an active shooter occurring at the Kroger behind us. We have 13 victims. Our hearts go out to those that were injured. We do have one fatality, and our thoughts and prayers are with those family members. The shooter is deceased. We believe that's going to be from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. As bad as this scene is, and it's horrific, I've been involved in this for 34 years, and I've never seen anything like it.